What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another deck profile here on TCG University for the card game UniVersus. My name's Tam, and today I'm going to be showing you the Tournelouse deck that I played for this week's Campus Championship. Let's jump into it. All right, so, excuse me, Tournelouse. What does Tournelouse want to do? So, Tournelouse is one of those decks that is can be played multiple ways. He can be an aggressive monster, an absolute madman by just swinging attacks, or he can play really defensive, really disruptively. But one of the cool things about Tournelouse is he actually gets to start with 4 copies of his character card, his 1-dot attached to him, and he uses his characters like bullets in order to give his attacks plus 4 damage, and then once per turn he can turn one of his gauge attacks, which lets him find other characters into throws to try and guarantee that gauge can happen. So deck consistency, getting 3 characters out. Getting extra damage, making things throws, he just mollywops you. And so there's the aggressive part of the character. But then the disruptive part of the character is we've got Tournelouse 2-dot, and 2-dots where he's turned into this big scary dog. And it says that after a character card enters or leaves the staging area, so whenever you attach it with gauge or build it in or so on and so forth, your opponent flips one of their foundations, or when you add it into your staging area to give the plus 4 damage off of Tournelouse 1-dot, they also flip one. And then he says, enhance your opponent's next check to play a card gets -1 for each character card in your card pool. And so if you accidentally flood your card pool, hold on, we have to attach a 2-dot in order to use that effect. If we flood our card pool with a bunch of character cards, you can see that all of my opponent's checks get -4 whenever they attempt to play cards. And that is not to play cards as attacks or on their turn, that's just to play cards. So that includes blocks or responses or even forms. So this character is very, very well rounded whenever you combine his 1-dot and his 2-dot together. So I'm going to leave his 2-dot out here, and we'll talk a little bit about how the deck works. So the number 1 bomb that we're playing inside of the deck, the main kill card that I have is we're playing for Alurophobia. This card gets absolutely massive. It gets damage off of existing in Tournelouse because he starts with his 4 characters, and it says it gets extra damage, and then it's allowed to double its own damage. And so starting off base, I want to say this thing's like a 24 damage attack if we pump it up all the way. And there's some really easy ways, really cheeky ways to just accidentally kill your opponent on turn 0. You can start with your character committed, play Tournelouse, and then kill them, and they just won't be able to block it. But we'll get to there in just 1 second. But this is the main bomb. This is the card that your opponent should be very, very afraid of seeing against Evil Torn. So next up, we've got 3 Vicious Madness. This card's an 8 damage throw. It just gets my opponent into the danger zone. So my Alurophobia is maybe it's turn 2, turn 3. My Alurophobia is just clean up the job. Really good versus my large vitality characters. Just 8 damage, 12 if I use Tournelouse. And then saying they can't partially block it is just a good ability to have. Up next, into our gauge attacks, we're playing 4 Lightning Torture. This thing just gets absolutely massive. I believe it is 8, 9, 10, 11 damage on a throw if we use Lightning Torture plus Tournelouse, and it has gauge 4. So there's no way that we're not getting our character back off of Torn's ability. It's super easy just to drop 2 of these, and just Vicious Madness into 2 of these means that you kill pretty much every 7-hander in the game. Up next, we've got Netherstorm, a really good defensive, disruptive tech piece into it. It is a reversal gauge attack, and it has the same ability as Tournelouse 2-dot that says your opponent gets -1 to their check for each character in your card pool. So you get -1 off of Netherstorm, you get -1 off of Torn 2, and now they pretty much can't block can't play any cards, especially as a block in order to get your gauge off. The one bad part about this card is it does have gauge 6 because it's printed 6 damage. So whenever you add with Tournelouse your card in, it only gets up to 10 damage. So if they half block it, it doesn't quite get there. But minus here and then minus here means that they probably won't block it. The last big thing about this card, the thing of note, is while this card is in the card pool, your character cards don't count towards progressive difficulty. So as Tournelouse adds this plus 4 damage, he's basically making the next card that he plays a little bit harder. So this would be, if I had all of these in my card pool, this would be on a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But because of the Netherstorms existing in the card pool, this one doesn't count, so it's just on a 7, which very much matters whenever I start flooding my card pool with character cards. On to the next one, we're playing Triple Bargeist Fang. This is another solid solid gauge target. It guarantees your character because you just give it the plus 4 damage off of Tournelouse, and then you make it a throw. It having gauge 3, 7 rounded up, if they full block it, is still 4, which means it's bigger than my gauge, so I get to get my character. So it basically just replaces the character. In addition to that, it also gets +5 speed whenever you use Torn. So you add a character in for +4 damage, and then it gets +5 speed, so it's an 8 for 7 on a 4 diff that gets you an extra character. And surprisingly, it can't be blocked by character cards, and because of the 7th cross set, as well as a bunch of cool DLC and cool tech pieces that exist in the game, there are plenty of buddy blocks running around, so that might come in handy. And then the last attack we're playing triple Prism Storm of Torment, one of the coolest cards inside of Suzaku's kit. It says if it is the 7th card that you play on the turn, you can just play it down for free, no check needed, and then you can add all character cards from your discard pile into your staging area. So if you've used all of these bullets, let's say all of these exist, you play the Prism Storm, you can just put them all back, and now you just reloaded your machine gun once again. Not to mention, it's a 7 high for 7 with gauge 7, so there's a lot of really thick, meaty attacks inside this deck. On to the actions and asset. The main action that we care about in this deck is we're playing triple Call of the Dreamlands. And this is the way that I said that we got to kill people with Allurophobia on turn 1, turn 0, if you will, is you just play out the Allurophobia on turn 1, hope that it checks, or find some way to guarantee for it to check, which we have in the deck, and they attempt to play it. Call of the Dreamland says that their check gets minus X. X equals the number of characters in your staging area. Since we go ahead and we start with 3 of our 1 dots attached, this says that their check gets -4, which basically makes this a 7-speed attack. And if you remember, this card does 1,000,000 damage. So if it's turn 1, turn 0, turn whatever, we can toss this thing up to 1,000,000 and then force them to fail the block. And if they fail the block, they do get to draw a card, but they're probably already dead. There was one point that on turn 1, I made Allurophobia just do 20 damage versus a 28 health character, and, you know, he lost because he started the game at 8 health. Okay, so, yeah, we've got the triple call. Just want to make that clear. There are 3 of these. The next action that we're playing is pretty standard for the evil kit. We're playing double revoke. This just says no to a singular enhance. It could be on any card in the game. If you play an enhance, I'll say no to it, as well as lets me build out a little cleaner on turn 1, turn 2. And then the last action we're playing is Double Tagoro Brothers. Kind of like Revoke, this card says no, but exclusively to foundations, but it also has the added bonus of destroying the foundation as well, and then you can clear it from your card pool like Revoke does, or you can leave it in the card pool to increase your progressive difficulty and draw an additional card. Onto our assets, we're playing 1 Fiddlesticks. This card just says that I get to draw additional cards. Because I'm making a ton of things throws, I can add them to my momentum and then pick them right back up on my turn. It feels really, really good being able to draw Netherstorms on my opponent's turn by destroying useless ready foundations, which we have plenty of because we're playing the evil symbol. Onto the disruptive assets, we're playing 1 Blood and Sweat and Beers after they play a response, maybe to cancel my cool Call of the Dreamlands. If I'm in desperation, which happens because of my 20 health, I just cancel it, or I can block with it and say they get -1 of their checks the rest of the turn. Combining that with Tournelouse 2 is pretty tough. On them, let's say. Up next, we've got 1 Cormorant, a block from our staging area. It's a 1 mid block, amazing inside of the game, and then it also has Breaker 2, which says my next card gets +2 difficulty. We've got 1 Coludus. After my attack deals damage, I'm going to flip one of their foundations. We do have a bit of a soft flip, but it's really easy for a deck that wants to go all out on something like a Call of the Dreamlands Allurophobia play for them to have just a pesky foundation to just like reset my damage or so on and so forth. And so if I can hit them with one of the gauge throws that I have and then I get to choose and flip their problem card, it just means I get to hit my combo a little quicker. And then my last asset is 1 Maze Castle. I can turn things to mid blocks and then block with Tournelouses, breaker them. It's easy 0 mid blocks, as well as after my opponent makes a check to play an attack, I can commit by 2 and then force them to fail that check while saving Tournelouses in my staging area as opposed to forcing them into my card pool. Onto our foundations. We're not playing any aggressive foundations because I think Tournelouse goes ahead and hits that aggressive mark by himself, but we are playing a ton of flow in order to make my cool Allurophobia combo hit. So the first flow card that we're playing is 4 Fallen Angels. If I see Fallen Angels and Allurophobia and Call of the Dreamlands all in my opening hand, I'm going to be throwing it. Because of the way that Fallen Angels works, you play it as your first form. You look at the top card of your deck. If it checks a 5, you leave it there, and you know that your Allurophobia is going to pass. And so you pump it up to 20, and then Call of the Dreamlands on a 3. You know Call of the Dreamlands is going to pass because there are no bad checks in the deck. So this guarantees if you see this triple combo, you will hit them for 20 on turn 1. You just will. Unless they've got some cheeky hand trap like Deliverance or something along those lines, which if you have a second call, actually you could maybe force them to fail the call of the Deliverance if you if they check an attack on the Deliverance. But this card is just guaranteeing making my turn 1 play happen if I get lucky enough, which inside of the tournament that we just had, the Campus Championship, which you can catch on another playlist on the YouTube, I did make it happen against somebody. The next full card that we have is a Leader of the Saintly Beasts. This card just says form, dig for an attack. It does not grab Alluraphobia, sadly, but it does grab something like Prism Storm of 7, which I could just pop down at the end of a turn, or maybe a cool throw to replace the card. It also grabs character cards, which is useful whenever we've got character cards with Breaker 1 on them. Just a little more disruption in the game. Up next, we've got 4 Evil Eye. Normally, this card is saved for a defensive card because of the flip return of this attack to printed speed, but because it has this other ability of remove a card from your card pool or your hand from the game, draw a card, and Tournelouse tossing his bullets into his card pool, we want to be able to clear that clear our chamber. Hilarious, I keep using gun references. We want to be able to clear the chamber in order to make room for extra attacks happening. And so if I can get the added value of drawing an additional card off of Evil Eye, I'm going to take it for sure. Up next, we're playing Double True Identity. This card just lubes up my checks, form, commit. As my attack swing happens, I'm going to be checking it nice and big. The big thing about this is just that this is only good if I am playing a big long string. Otherwise, I've determined that I failed 1 check. Anytime inside of a turn that you would have to normally commit 2 cards to pass a check, but you only had to commit 1 because of the True Identity, this True Identity was worth it. So make sure that you are not just mindlessly playing True Identity's forms. Make sure you use it appropriately. Up next, we've got Double Hell's Reach. Really good spam, meaning it's a 1 or a 0 diff, and it just readies itself because of our check system being a little luck-based, being able to just, I overcommitted. Let me just ready up my Hell's Reach. This is especially effective on defense, making sure that you can block it as much as you need. In the same vein as Hell's Reach, we're playing Triple Azure Nightmare. This card just says discard one of my 7 cards that I draw every turn and ready back up my this foundation. It's also a little bit of a stun deterrent because you burned them, as well as if you discard a card, I don't know, like the Azure Nightmare, you get to burn them for 1. It's just an all-around okay card. I think it's very, I don't want to say undervalued. I think it's exactly valued as it is. It's just good. Up next, we've got another flow card. We've got Triple A Moment of Rest. This card gives anything gauge equal to its printed, which then Tournelouse gives it throw, which is an amazing play, being able to turn your Alluraphobia into a throw. That's just like a really, really cool play. But in addition to that, after you play a character card normally as a block, you can just flip it and then add it into your staging area. So you just don't have to build it on 6s anymore or gauge it in. You just snap build it on blocks, which is great. My last flow card is for Orphan Alchemist, and the reason I had this in flow is not because of the flip look of the top card of your deck, but because of the card Fatality existing in the game. I need to be able to flip and stop you from removing my character cards. My character cards are my main aggressive tool, and so if you have any way to get rid of those tools, I need to be able to stop you. And so this not only stops it, but I get to draw an additional resource. On to defense, we're playing Triple Face of a Monster. It's a speed change as well as a zone change once I'm in desperation. And so I can take and change on all your attacks to mids and then block with Tournelouse 2 dots. Breaker 1, easy 0 mid block, just all around great card. As well as it's really hard to block my huge attacks if you are in deadlock and I make you discard a bunch of cards. So Face of a Monster, definitely worth it inside this deck. On to a bit of disruption. This card also has a bit of a defense play, which is why it's right here. The main reason I put this card in is not because of the minus damage, but it is because of the add the card to their card pool. I want them to end their turn as quickly as possible, and so card pool clogging plus the minus to the checks off of Tournelouse, I just want them to be done with their turn because I'm an aggressive deck. I want to play cool cards on my turn. So end your turn as fast as possible and then extend and lengthen mine. Up next, we've got Double Servant of Ares, kind of in the same mine as the Colludus. I almost had it. The Colludus, I want my opponent's foundations to not do anything. So with the flipping of Tournelouse, the flipping of Colludus, the flipping of Servant of Ares, I want their staging area to not do anything so I can just powerhouse and run over them with all of my cool throws, my cool gauge throws. Next, we're playing a double Overrun by Tourist. My opponent might be trying to sculpt the hand, but after my opponent plays a non-attack card, I can reveal a card from their hand, and they discard it, and they reveal X cards equal to the number of face downs. I'm flipping things with the aforementioned cards, and then will choose the coolest card in their hand, and then get rid of it. They do get to get another blind draw, but if as soon as you make them flip 6 things, you just pick one card out of their hand that you don't like, and then force them to discard it, and then draw a blind one. Maybe they were keeping attacks. Oh, we'll get rid of it. Did you have a reversal? No, get rid of it. And this does work on blocks. So like your opponent could have 2 cards in their hand, right? And they block. You could then be like, oh, actually, I'm gonna pick that other card. You're gonna discard it, and now they don't get to reversal you per se. Up next, we've got Double Outworld's Heiress, kind of in the same vein as the flip aspect of the deck. Outworld's Heiress takes care of assets as well as foundations. I'll pay Vitality and then put that problem card back into your hand. I do lose the resource on board, but that's totally okay. Making sure that my combo can go through is super, super important. But paying 3 Vitality to put a Swordfish in somebody's hand as I blast them with an Alurophobia feels amazing. And then my last disruptive card is a Triple Cage Fighter. This card is just a very high skill cap card. After my opponent attempts to play a card, I can respond and give that check -1. Failing, it doesn't end. This does stack with Tournelouse, so do be careful. But you can just pretty much Tournelouse plus Cage Fighter plus Call of the Dreamland plus, what was the attack that we play? Maelstrom, I believe that is Netherstorm, excuse me. You can just hack their checks to oblivion, and then they just can't play any more cards. You're just making them fail all their cards, which is just discarding, which means that my game plan is just going to be even smoother. And so there you have it. There is the Tournelouse deck that we played. Oh, make sure we can show the Tournelouse deck that we played for this week's Campus Championship. If you like this deck and you want to see more of it, make sure you check out all the matches that we played, whether it be over on Twitch in the next week or... Oh, those will be gone. Just kidding. Don't watch them on Twitch. Watch them on YouTube, youtube.com/TCGUniversity. But if you want to catch the streams live, please go out to twitch.tv/TCGUniversity. Follow out there to get notifications whenever we go live. Or support us out on Patreon, patreon.com/TCGUniversity. And I'll remind you for you. So with that said, thank you very much for watching the show, you guys, and stay learned.